guys, Mr. Fluffy Pants here. Today guys, another video, and today guys, I'm going to go over references and hidden details that you probably missed in Scoob, and I am getting some of this information from Screen Rant's article they did on this, but a lot of that's just kind of like more of the finer details. Like most of these actually surprisingly noticed myself, and usually I'm not too good at noticing Easter eggs in movies, but you know, I'm a huge Scooby-Doo fan and Hanna-Barbera fan, so you know, this was kind of right up my alley. But you know, there's a few like that are kind of deeper, like in the background kind of stuff, and you know, there's some stuff that's up front, like you know, how they have pretty much they redo the original Scooby-Doo Where Are You intro from season 1, like in this, which is really cool. Let me just say I love that so much. But you know, there's some less obvious stuff, which we'll get to later, but, like, you know, another obvious one is, like, Dick Dastardly. You know, he's from Wacky Races, or at least he was in that, and, you know, his dog Muttley, so, and he's the main bad guy of this movie. A lot of people probably didn't know he's from Wacky Races, but I remember watching that show when I was little, and, like, oh, that show used to be so good. And also, there's even, like, whenever Scooby and them were in the arcade, at the old abandoned theme park, you see a, arcade cabinet, that's has the name of, it says PP on it, which I'm pretty sure stands for, forgot her name exactly, but Penelope from Wacky Races, and that was, I think her name is like Pink Penelope or something like that, but, you know, she was from Wacky Races, and, you know, that's just, honestly, just a really good little, background detail, and actually, there's quite a few references in that arcade, but, you know, we'll get to some of those later. But, you know, the whole thing of Wacky Races, you know, Muttley, and then at the end, during the credits, you see Muttley come in with like his classic Wacky Races car and breaks out Dick Dastardly. You know, just fine little touches right like that. And trust me, there's a whole lot more Hanna-Barbera and Scooby-Doo references in this movie. Okay, guys, another little detail that I noticed is at the very beginning of the movie when Shaggy's, like, on the boardwalk or whatever, in the background there's a little shop called Casey Creations, which I noticed immediately was a reference to Casey Kasem, which was the voice actor for Shaggy from, like, 1967, 97, so, and then he also did What's New Scooby-Doo, I believe, but as soon as I saw Casey's Creations, I was like, yeah, that definitely has to be a reference to, you know, Casey Kasem. Okay, guys, and this is another one I noticed on my first viewing, and I knew it had something to do with some animator or something, but it is the bowling alley that Shaggy and Scoob go to, which is Takamoto Bowl, which is actually a reference to the animator Takamoto, which he did a lot of Disney movies like Cinderella and Snow White and all those, but he's also the person that originally did the character like models for like Scooby-Doo, so you know that is a really cool reference. And I knew it was some kind of animator's last name, but I did have to look it up, and he, you know, I'm pretty sure that he did the original sketch for Scooby-Doo, but yeah, it says like Cinderella, Lady and the Tramp, and then, you know, yeah, so he actually did model Scooby-Doo, so that is really cool. Okay, guys, the next Easter egg is kind of more about a character, which is the character of Dee Dee Skies, which in the movie is the pilot of the Falcon Fury, and, you know, she's part of the Blue Falcon gang or whatever, but I actually did not know. I thought she was created just for this movie, but turns out that she was in the anime series for Captain Caveman, which we'll get to a little bit later, and Teen Angels, which was apparently to kind of be the animated kind of rip-off version of Charlie's Angels, which that's kind of cool to know, but I actually did, you know, like I said, did not know that, you know, she was actually a Hanna-Barbera character, and I thought she's exclusively created for this movie, so that's a neat little thing to know. Speaking of Captain Caveman, he shows up in this movie. Let me just say, whenever he showed up, like, I love that so much. Like, Captain Caveman, I do definitely remember watching him, and, you know, and I think some people were saying that there was a reference to the Flintstones, and that's whenever he holds up the turtle and it makes like a horn sound. It's like the same whistle that Fred Flintstone slides down the dinosaur on. I'm not too sure about that one, but, you know, Captain Caveman, I mean, he's kind of, you know, up front, which, you know, it's kind of hard to miss him, but he's also in the credits at the end. But, you know, it's really cool seeing all these Hanna-Barbera characters in this movie. Okay, next up, right beside Takamoto Bowl, is Pebble's Pet Store, which is the actual main setting of the show, the Magilla Gorilla. I think I'm saying that right, but it's not a show I watch too much, but I do actually remember seeing, like, reruns on, like, Boomerang and stuff, and, you know, that character is pretty recognizable, and, you know, Mr. Pebbles, but this is definitely one that snuck past me, but I think this was actually in the trailers, if I'm not mistaken, but still really cool reference to the Magilla Gorilla. Okay, this next one, I did, see it in the movie, but I didn't recognize the character per se, but he kind of looked familiar, but this is actually a reference to Squiddly Diddly on the Billboard, which, is from, like, a bunch of different shows, like Adam Ant and the Secret Squirrel Show, which was one of my personal favorites, to be honest, which that dates all the way back to 1965, which that was a long time ago. But yeah, and I definitely love Secret Agent Squirrel or the Secret Squirrel Show and the Adam Ant. You know, those are just classics. But yeah, nice little reference. Okay, these next few are going to be a quick rapid fires because there's so many references inside the abandoned theme park Scooby and Shaggy are in, like the little arcade room. But the first one is Hong Kong Phooey on one of the arcade cabinets. A poster featuring the Banana Splits, which I absolutely used to love their show, and a lot of people probably recognize them from that horror movie that came out last year. There is a Hex Girls poster, which appears in the arcade, which, you know, is a classic Scooby-Doo characters, you know, which I think first appeared in The Witch's Ghost, but, you know, really, and I think that's actually the appearance on the poster is actually their appearances from The Witch's Ghost. You know, that showed up in a lot more since then, but really cool. Also, another arcade cabinet which says Laugh Olympics, which is actually a show that was that they did back in the day, which included a bunch of Hanna-Barbera characters, even including Scooby-Doo, which it was kind of like the Olympics, but not really. I don't really remember the show, but I have heard about it before, which, you know, it's cool to, you know, then to put a little reference in there for it. Another one is an arcade cabinet which says Space Stars, which was a show back in 1981 that's featured like Space Ghost and like a few other people, but don't really know too much about this one, but you know, I do recognize Space Ghost at least, but you know, Space Ghost, he's just a classic character. I remember that it was like the praying mantis guy. I don't remember his name, but I remember him pretty fondly. And then the last one, other than the Penelope Pit Stop one, which we talked about earlier, I think I called her Pink Penelope earlier for some reason, but is the Frankenstein Jr. arcade cabinet, which, you know, I do, again, remember this show very fondly, you know, and his, let's see, his team is called the Impossibles, and I do remember, you know, all of them very, very fondly, so, you know, it's cool to see them in it, and, you know, even Frankenstein Jr. does appear in the end credits, which is pretty cool, but, you know, definitely just a classic show. Okay, and this one right here is a little harder to notice, and this is actually not one I noticed, but it's whenever Daphne, Velma, and Fred are driving down the highway, you know, to go try to find Scooby and Shaggy, but there's a billboard advertising Jellystone National Park, which, you know, any seasoned fan of Hanna-Barbera knows, you know, that's the home of Yogi Bear and Boo Boo Too, you know, classic show, and, you know, we all try to get that live-action movie out of our heads. That movie was complete trash, but I would like to see, you know, at least another animated movie of it, like a, you know, completely animated movie, but, you know, that's just one of the most classic shows from Hanna-Barbera, including, like, Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, and, like, a few others. Okay, and also one of the locations they travel to the movie to get one of the skulls is Messick Mountain, which I figured was probably a reference to someone's name, but once you look it up, he was the original voice of Scooby-Doo up until his death in 97. He didn't play like him all the time, but, you know, Frank Welker is probably most known for it, but, you know, Messick was the actual original voice, and he voiced a bunch of other classic Hanna-Barbera characters like Boo Boo and the Ranger from Yogi Bear and like Papa Smurf, and he was just like a legendary voice actor. So, you know, it's great that they were able to at least include a reference to him in the movie. Okay, now we're going to get into some of the references that were included into the end credits, which is really cool. And the first one is Adam Ant, which, you know, this was another one of those classic ones I used to watch. And, you know, this is one of those, he had one of those shows where they split, like, the hour into, like, two different shows. He was part of the Adam Ant and the Secret Squirrel Show in 1965. So, you know, that's really cool. And I definitely remember from some reruns on Boomerang. But, you know, it's really cool, you know, to see him referenced in the end credits. Okay, and then one of my all-time favorite Hanna-Barbera shows, other than, like, Scooby-Doo, of course, is Jabberjaws. I absolutely love Jabberjaws. Like, I'm so glad they were able to include him in the movie. And, you know, him and Speed Buggy, unfortunately, does not get any cameo or whatever, which is very unfortunate, but are just some of my favorites. And, you know, they were in that one Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated episode. I think it was, like, the Mystery Solvers Club Finals or something. And, you know, just seeing them in that. And I also don't think there was a reference to, what was his name? Captain Phantom or something like that, and he had like the ghost cat or whatever. I don't know exactly their names, but I do actually remember watching them too. But, you know, Jabberjaws is just a classic to me. And another one that's a little lesser known is the Great Grape Ape, which I actually, did not know his name, but I've definitely seen him and watched him before. But, for me, at least one of the lesser known ones for me, I guess. But it's cool to see him get a shout out too. I kind of get him and the Magilla Gorilla mixed up a little bit, but I definitely remember them both. And then another one is Dr. Benton Quest from Johnny Quest, of course, which is another just absolute classic show. That aired all the way back in 1964, which was even before Scooby-Doo, but that is just another classic one. Every time he shows up, like he also showed up in Scooby-Doo Mysteries Incorporated, it's always a treat. I just love that so much. Okay, and lastly, there is another shot or another reference to Frankenstein Jr., which is pretty cool. And actually, to the left right there, you can see the original, cartoon animations of, Dick Dastardly and Muttley, which is kind of cool. Dick Dastardly's classic hat, which he was missing in this movie, unfortunately, but it kind of does look a little goofy. But, still kind of cool to see, both of those Easter eggs right there. But anyway, guys, that is all the references and hidden details that you missed in Scoob, or at least the ones I thought were, suitable to, showcase in this video. And some of the ones I thought were cool, and I will leave a link to the Screen Rant article I used to help put this video together, so thank you for that. But some of these I just absolutely love, and just the fact that now there's this Scooby-Doo or Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, and seeing all these classic characters reference and stuff just makes it, it's just so cool. But anyway, guys, leave your thoughts down below. What is your favorite Easter egg, and did you notice any of these while you're watching the movie? But check out my Twitter and Discord, link in the description. Like and subscribe for more. Check out some other videos, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!